Hi.
Hi, Colleen.
Hello, Lori.
I am so glad that you attendees are here with us. I am so glad that we have Amy and Colleen here. They are from GFS Events. And if you've hung out with us for any period of time, you know that we love having anybody from the GFS Events team on our webinar stage. GFS Events stands for Growth Fundraising Solutions for Nonprofits. They create exceptional events. They are award winning. They are full service event management, and they specialize in producing nonprofit fundraising events. So ladies, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for your team for helping you guys prep and make this happen.
Thank you, Lori, for having us.
It's my pleasure. And if you're new on the Auctria side and you came in through another avenue, Auctria is an easy to use fundraising tool, platform, software to run your fundraising events. And it runs all types of events and auction fundraisers, from the first donation to the last receipt, your tickets, your sponsorships, your raffles, your auctions. Auctria does it all. But today we are here to talk about attracting a younger generation for fundraising events. So we brought along the right people to do that. Hey ladies, before we start, is it okay if we ask people what kind of organization they're fundraising for and where they're tuning in from? Where are you
Absolutely.
today?
We are here in Carnation, Washington, or Falls City, Washington. So rainy Pacific Northwest, enjoying the January weather.
And you guys are in the same location, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. And I am in the furthest spot possible from you in sunny South Florida. And of course, I like to help all of our organizations. It looks like people are pinging in. We've got Tri-City, Washington, Portland, Oregon, sunny Denver, New York, Frederick, Manhattan, Kansas. Love the Little Apple, San Fran, Washington, D.C., Tacoma. Go ahead and continue to put your information in there. Put your organization that you support also. Lots of times people find friends that are local to them, and sometimes they find friends that are running the same sort of organization that they are. So the purpose of this webinar today is to give you an opportunity to attract a younger generation, because we want to be able to fill that funnel and have people participate and engage with your organization for years and years and decades. So at this point in time, I'm going to hand the keys over to Amy and Colleen, and happy to grab any questions that you guys have. Go ahead and drop them into the chat pod, and we will either answer them throughout the presentation or at the end. Ladies, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Lori. We are so excited to be here with you today in the virtual world. So thank you everyone for joining us today for attracting a younger generation to fundraising events. Today, we're going to explore how nonprofits can leverage new trends to effectively connect with and engage this new generation of donors. My name is Colleen O'Connor. I am an assistant fundraising and events producer with GFS Events, and I have been in the nonprofit event industry for about 2.5 years now. And during that time, I've helped plan over 50 fundraising events. I am so excited to be joined today by my colleague, Amy Lopez.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Lopez, and I am also an assistant fundraising event producer with GFS Events. I've helped produce over 30 events, and I have been in the nonprofit event industry for 1.5 years. I'm just excited to be here today to connect with you and share how to engage the next generation of donors. But before we dive in, I wanted to share a little bit about GFS Events. We are a full-service event management company. We specialize in creating exceptional and successful events for nonprofits. Our mission is to raise more money for your organization than you could do on your own. We plan events across the country. On the screen here, you can see the types of events that we produce. This includes galas and auctions, benefit dinners, luncheons, walks and runs, golf tournaments, conferences, and community events. Some of these services we provide to our clients include event management, vendor coordination, sponsorship support, and volunteer management.
So for today's webinar, we'll explore some trends that nonprofits can leverage to effectively connect with and engage that new generation of donors. So to start off, let's talk about who is Gen Z, what motivates them, what do they value, and then we'll switch into how you can engage Gen Z in your fundraising events. We'll also dive into some specific ways that you can tailor your events to engage the younger generation by reimagining that traditional gala. So why is this important? Why should you invest in Gen Z? When you think about your organization, you may have noticed that the average age of your donors is between 55 and 70 years old. And that definitely showed in our introduction questions. So it's safe to say that Gen Z has not yet built that type of loyal relationship with nonprofits that their baby boomer or Gen X counterparts are known for. It'll take time to build similar relationships, so it's important to start laying that groundwork now. When you do build those relationships, Gen Zers are likely to stick around for a while, allowing nonprofits to keep those relationships for the long run. So let's take a closer look at who Gen Z is.
Who is Gen Z? Gen Z includes individuals born between 1997 and 2012, which means we're currently around 13 to 28 years old. This age range would be your youngest pool of donors. Gen Z is the first generation to grow up entirely in the digital age, making us true digital natives. Beyond technology, we are known for being socially conscious and highly engaged with a wide variety of global and society issues. As many of us are just beginning our careers, we bring fresh perspectives, adaptability, and enthusiasm to the workplace. With this in mind, it's important to note that Gen Z doesn't currently have the monetary power to give that baby boomers and Gen X have. So building a relationship with Gen Z donors now is a long-term investment into your future of your organization. Now that you have a better understanding of who Gen Z is, let's dive into our dislikes and likes when it comes to nonprofit events and explore what motivates us. All right, let's kick things off by diving into what are Gen Z dislikes. These are areas that can create disconnects when trying to engage with this generation. We don't like when you lack authenticity. Gen Z dislikes nonprofits that come off as performative or insincere in their messaging and actions. Exclusivity, high ticket prices, or formal, inaccessible events can annihilate our group. Lack of transparency. Gen Z is wary of organizations that don't clearly outline how their funds are used or demonstrate accountability. Overemphasis on tradition. We dislike rigid, overtly traditional event formats that don't offer fresh creative experiences. Now that we've covered the dislikes, let's shift our focus to the positives.
So what does Gen Z like? For Gen Z, our likes and interests reflect our values and the world we've grown up in. Today, we'll be focusing on some specific Gen Z interests, such as opportunities for involvement. Gen Z appreciates opportunities for hands-on, meaningful participation, such as volunteering or co-creating events. We like purpose-driven missions. We value nonprofits with clear, impactful missions that align with global and social issues. Transparency and impact. Gen Z values organizations that are open about how their funds are used and the measurable impact of their efforts. Creating a culture of recognition. Gen Z is highly engaged on social media platforms, and we appreciate public acknowledgement for our contributions. We're also highly influenced by our peers, so we're more likely to participate in fundraising activities when we see our friends or social networks involved. technology integration. We're drawn to nonprofits that are using innovative tools like social media, apps, or digital campaigns to engage donors and volunteers. And inclusive events. We like events that are accessible, diverse, and celebrate individuality. So the next question is, how do you do all of this successfully? Well, let's dive deeper into each of these motivations, starting with opportunities for involvement. Though Gen Zers may not be able to give significant monetary donations, they do want to give back. So when looking at ways to engage your younger generations in fundraising, the first way is to create accessible opportunities for involvement. And the primary way to get Gen Zers involved is through volunteering. So here are two ways that your organization can provide opportunities for Gen Z to get involved in volunteering. The first way is to create those opportunities for hands-on engagement. Gen Z is very action-oriented, valuing the opportunity to contribute our time and skills to causes that resonate with our personal values. For fundraising events, we're likely to attend events where we can actively participate, not just as attendees, but as contributors. So creating volunteer roles that are meaningful and visibly impactful can increase Gen Z's enthusiasm and investment. For example, try to offer direct ways for Gen Z to contribute, like having a Gen Z volunteer facilitate a guest activity or a game during your gala's reception. Have them assist with event logistics, like setting up your silent auction, or have them participate in impactful, on-the-ground volunteer roles, like working a shift at the food bank. All of these examples offer Gen Z an opportunity to have hands-on involvement so that they can see the impact of their support firsthand. It's also important to utilize skill-based volunteering. Offering volunteer roles that utilize our skills can give us a sense of pride and help us feel that we are making a significant contribution in our own unique way. This in turn makes us feel like valued supporters of your organization. By encouraging younger volunteers, not only will you get them invested in your mission, but it'll also provide you with dedicated, long-term volunteer support. So, what are some examples of great volunteer roles for Gen Z? Examples include graphic design. So you can leverage your Gen Z supporters who are proficient in Photoshop or Canva and have them design your event graphics, invitation, event slideshow, or program. Web design. Have a tech-savvy Gen Zer design your event website. Social media and marketing. Ask your Gen Z volunteers to run your organization's social media page, or have them run a campaign encouraging other Gen Z supporters to repost or engage with your social media posts. Because remember, we have been using social media since we were about 10 or 11 years old. Some other great examples include photography and videography. Have your Gen Z volunteer photograph or film your event. You can also recruit younger volunteers to help with some of the setup and cleanup at your events. There's usually a lot of heavy lifting involved, so it's always great to have those younger folks on hand. And lastly, committee assistance. You can leverage Gen Z's familiarity with Google Drive or Microsoft Office, which many of us have used throughout high school and college. And a great use of those skills would be to have your Gen Z volunteers assist with compiling data and organizing a procurement tracker spreadsheet. You can also have them help with data entry by asking them to input auction items into Auctria. And now that we've discussed the ways to get Gen Z involved, let's discuss some ways to get Gen Z more invested in your organization.
The second motivation is purpose-driven missions. One effective way to engage with Gen Z with your organization is by clearly sharing your mission. You want everyone, especially new attendees, to leave with a strong understanding of who you are, what you stand for, and the impactful work you're doing. This is especially crucial for younger generations, like Gen Z, who are looking for meaningful connections and authenticity. A great way to achieve this is by setting up mission tables at your event. We usually recommend having 2 to 3 tables each focusing on a different aspects of your nonprofit's mission. For example, one of our clients, a food bank supporting low-income families, created a powerful experience at their event. They set up dedicated mission tables showcasing the impact of their work. Each table featured poster boards highlighting key programs and initiatives, giving attendees a clear picture of how their contributions make a difference. But they didn't stop there. They included tangible items related to each program, like materials they distributed to clients such as backpacks, making the experience more interactive. To take it a step further, they had volunteers from their organization stationed at the tables ready to chat, answer any questions, and just get a feel for the programs. This approach made the experience personal, engaging, and transparent. It resonated deeply with me as a Gen Zer because I value authenticity and appreciate seeing how an organization is making an impact. Now think about your own organization. What are programs or initiatives you'd want to showcase? Mission tables are a great way to bring those stories to life and creating a lasting impression for Gen Z guests. Number 3, transparency and impact. For Gen Z, transparency isn't just a preference, it's a priority. We want to see the real-world difference our contributions make. It's not enough to ask for support. We need to understand how that support drives meaningful change. We're drawn to organizations that align with our values and are eager to learn how your work supports causes that matter to us. To truly connect, it's crucial to share authentic stories that highlight the tangible impact of our donations. While we've already touched on mission tables, another powerful way to engage is through impact videos. Gen Z really cares about seeing the real-world impact of your organization, and sharing your personal story brings your mission to life in a way that speaks to us. So why is this important to Gen Z? We value authenticity and want to know that our support is driving real, measurable change. By focusing on one individual's experience, viewers can see how your programs and services make a real difference in people's lives. This personal touch makes it easier for your audience to understand and appreciate your mission. A compelling story highlights the meaningful change you're creating in the community, and when told right, it can inspire support and motivate others to get involved. This resonates with Gen Z as we're always looking for ways to make a difference and contribute to positive change. Now let's explore how to create a culture of recognition to boost ongoing involvement, particularly from Gen Z.
To engage Gen Z in fundraising events, it's important to understand our need for purpose-driven, transparent involvement and make an effort to recognize us in authentic and visible ways. That's why creating a culture of recognition is the fourth way to attract and retain your Gen Z supporters. So why is recognition important? As I mentioned, recognition is key to engaging Gen Z as it taps into our desire for transparency, connection, and growth. So let's break this down. Recognition is a great way to leverage peer influence and social connection, which are two strong motivating factors for younger generations. Peer influence is important because Gen Z is highly influenced by our peers and the causes that they support. So we are more likely to participate in fundraising events when our friends or social networks are involved. That's why recognition not only acknowledges the hard work of individual supporters, but it also inspires their peers to get involved, creating a ripple effect. Recognition also helps build our social connections. By highlighting individual efforts, you show how your supporters contribute to a shared mission, reinforcing that sense of belonging and community. So, what are some ways to highlight Gen Z? Traditionally, major donors have been acknowledged with personal phone calls or mentions in your annual report. But for this digitally native audience, there are countless ways to get creative beyond a simple thank you email or a phone call, especially considering how much Gen Z hates talking on the phone. So please do not call us. One way that is great to highlight Gen Z is public acknowledgement through social media. Gen Z is highly engaged on social platforms, and we appreciate public acknowledgement for our contributions. Recognizing volunteers on social media through shout-outs or posts highlighting their work and impact will likely resonate with them. You might consider creating a volunteer spotlight series to acknowledge individual efforts and publicly celebrate volunteer contributions. Some ways to do this include sharing posts such as videos or pictures of your volunteers in action. This also helps new volunteers understand how they can contribute. Another way to highlight Gen Z is through impact focus recognition. Gen Z wants to know that our efforts, whether in time or money, are making a real difference. When recognizing Gen Z volunteers or donors, link your acknowledgement to the tangible impact of our contributions. For example, if a Gen Z volunteer is selling raffle tickets at your fundraising event, then reach out to them after the event and let them know how the money that was raised through raffle ticket sales has made a positive impact on your organization. Doing so shows prospective volunteers that getting involved will make a tangible difference in their community.
The fifth motivation is tech integration. Integrating technology into your events can greatly enhance the attendee experience, especially for younger generations who expect instant access to information. Providing tech-savvy solutions can make a significant impact. Unlike other generations, Gen Z knows and understands QR codes, and we can see them without our readers. QR codes are a versatile and powerful tool for fundraising events, offering multiple ways to engage attendees and encourage giving. One of the most effective uses is linking them directly to your online auction, allowing guests to browse and bid on items from their phones without leaving the event space. Another great way to utilize QR codes is by placing them throughout the venue, whether at the cocktail hour or in the main event area. These codes can direct attendees to your donation page, making it easy for them to contribute quickly and securely with just a scan. QR codes provide a seamless, modern way to support your cause while enhancing the accessibility of online auctions. Now let's see how an online auction combined with tools like QR codes can elevate your fundraising efforts and engage your audience. While Gen Z might not have the largest budgets, we're tech-savvy, socially conscious, and eager to support causes that align with our values. Online auctions are an ideal way to connect with us because they offer convenience, allowing us to participate easily from our phones. Also, they're inclusive, welcoming people from all locations and financial capacities to get involved. Gen Z values experience over materials, so offering unique auction opportunities like meet and greets, exclusive tours, or personal services can really capture our interest. Online campaigns are an excellent way to make it easy for anyone, anywhere to contribute to your cause. Gen Z's strong presence on social media makes this ideal for spreading the word about your event. By sharing engaging content like teaser videos or behind-the-scenes glimpses of how funds will make an impact, we can broaden your campaign's reach and attract more participants. These campaigns offer the flexibility for supporters to donate at their convenience, which is especially appealing to Gen Z. By sharing compelling stories and highlighting your work, You can engage Gen Z, who values transparency and loves seeing real-time videos that show the direct impact you're making in the community. Engaging us now is an investment in the future, laying groundwork for the next generation of donors, advocates, and supporters.
The sixth motivation that we'll be discussing is inclusive events. Remember, Gen Z cares deeply about inclusivity because we value diversity, equity, and creating spaces where everyone feels welcome and represented. That is why creating an inclusive event is another great way to encourage younger folks to attend, as they are highly passionate about initiatives that promote fairness and inclusion. Some examples of inclusive initiatives include provide multi-language translations for your website and your print materials. By creating an event website and collateral material in multiple languages, you ensure inclusivity by making your event accessible to a broader audience, reflecting Gen Z's appreciation for diversity and cultural representation. Providing materials in multiple languages shows respect for the different communities and creates a welcoming environment where everyone feels like they belong. You can also offer on-site translators and interpreters. Consider hiring an on-site ASL interpreter for your events, depending on the needs of your guests. Also, consider including a land acknowledgement in your program. This resonates with Gen Z's strong commitment to social justice, as we actively seek out opportunities to support marginalized communities and amplify their voices. By recognizing the histories of Indigenous peoples, your event demonstrates a commitment to equity and raises awareness about critical issues that align with Gen Z's values of advocacy and change. Some additional ways that you can make more inclusive events is by offering sliding scale ticket prices. Remember, Gen Z does not have the large disposable income that some older donors have. So by offering flexible ticket pricing, you ensure accessibility as guests are able to pay what they can. Prioritize BIPOC vendors and local small businesses. Since equity is very important to Gen Z, we will appreciate it if you have made an effort to give your business to BIPOC-owned and operated vendors or local small businesses, instead of a large corporation. This shows your organization's commitment to uplifting and supporting your community in a more holistic way. Lastly, consider hosting hybrid events. Live streaming your event allows for interactive participation across in-person and online attendees. This makes your event even more accessible to all of your supporters, no matter where they are. So to recap really quick, we have just broken down the following 6 motivations that you can leverage to engage Gen Z in fundraising. The first, opportunities for involvement. Second, purpose-driven missions. Third, transparency and impact. Fourth, creating that culture of recognition. Fifth, technology integration. And then the 6th is those inclusive events. Now, we would love to take this one step further and talk about how you can really include Gen Z at your events by reimagining the gala. So when reimagining the gala, it's important to consider that traditional formal dinners and black tie events may not always resonate with that younger generation of attendees, especially when they're looking for something more engaging and accessible. Instead, consider hosting more relaxed, social events like networking mixers, where guests can mingle and connect in a more casual and laid-back environment. Gen Zers also love a good theme, so don't be afraid to pick a fun theme that aligns with your organization's mission and really lean into the decor, the dress code, and more. For example, as you can see from the photos included on this slide, These are from one of our clients' annual galas. This organization was founded with the goal of using sports and mentorship to close the growing opportunity gap among students and their community. With that history in mind, they have always aimed to make their fundraising gala feel welcoming and laid back, with an emphasis on sports. They even host their annual gala in a gymnasium. This client also got rid of games like the traditional wine pool and swapped them out for some more exciting, twist on that game, where they have here a paper plane toss game. And so guests could throw the paper plane, and if they made it, then they'd win that bottle of wine. So if you have an annual gala, try to find some creative ways to rework some of your traditional reception games. You can even have your Gen Z supporters help brainstorm ways to freshen up your classic fundraiser.
As Colleen mentioned, a great way to engage with Gen Z is to replace a traditional gala with a relaxed social event, such as a networking mixer. Choose a venue that's both fun and relaxed to create a welcoming atmosphere where guests can connect naturally. These settings not only encourage meaningful interactions, but also provide a great opportunity to expand your network. You'll have the chance to engage with potential donors, sponsors, and valuable contacts who support your future events. This shift to a more casual event format can truly transform the way people engage with your cause and open the door to new possibilities for collaboration and support. Another great way to make your event more engaging and resonate with Gen Z is adding interactive elements to the program. These hands-on experiences give guests the chance to connect with your mission in a deeper way and encourage them to take action. Whether it's during cocktail hour or at the tables, these activities create a more engaging experience and help guests feel more involved. Think about a key aspect of your mission that you'd want your guests to walk away with. Something that encourages reflection or how they support or get involved. Next, we'll share some examples of successful interactive engagement at events. An interesting idea for an interactive element is a history-focused activity. One of our clients chose to use self-standing poster boards, as you can see in this photo, that highlighted the most significant years in their organization's journey. Each poster gave a brief yet impactful overview of key milestones, allowing guests to easily explore the history and progress of the organization in a visual way.
Another example we would like to showcase is from a fundraising event where we helped our client create an interactive station during their gala's reception. And attendees were asked to contribute to completing a shared picture. So this is the client I previously mentioned, and obviously their organization is centered around youth mentorship. So they wanted to create an interactive station where guests were asked to fill in a tile answering an I am statement. The I am statement was meant to represent each person's individual personality and strengths. After completing each tile, guests were invited to add that tile to a giant board with the letters RA, which were the initials of the organization. During the seated program, the collection of tiles was combined with another poster board which completed the phrase, "We are RA." This was meant to be a meaningful visual representation of everyone's connection to the organization and how we all come together as individuals to create a collective whole. Another interactive way to engage Gen Z at your events is through a thought-provoking activity. Kind of similar, asking that posed question to your guests and asking them to share their insights. So for one of our clients, they're an organization that serves older adults and their caregivers in the Japanese American community. At their fundraiser, they asked their guests, if you had one wish what would it be? Guests then wrote their answers on a board, creating a meaningful and collective display of support and inspiration that highlighted the shared values and hopes of their community. This activity not only engaged attendees, but also tied into the organization's mission in a very personal and impactful way.
All right, another idea is to incorporate an interactive game into your next event. One of our clients does a fun twist on The Price is Right during their program. They bring contestants to the stage with game show music playing in the background. Their version includes questions about the organization's mission, and guests participate by answering questions to the best of their ability, all while learning more about the cause. It's a great way to engage your attendees, especially the younger crowd, like Gen Z, who love interactive and fun activities. What's even better is that the game brought together board members and local students who not only volunteered on the night of the event, but are also active supporters of the organization. This creates a strong sense of community and involvement. It's an enjoyable, educational, and inclusive experience that connects everyone. Incorporating any of these interactive elements we mentioned makes the event more engaging and inspires your guests to actively connect with your mission. Now let's take a closer look at an example of how you can reimagine your gala. One of our clients completely reimagined their event model with impressive results. They previously hosted a traditional sit-down auction dinner, which was more geared towards Gen X and baby boomer audience. While the event allowed the guests interaction, it didn't meet their fundraising expectation, raising only $30,000. Also, it didn't offer many opportunities for meaningful connections. They recognized the need for change, so they decided to rethink their gala entirely. Instead of sticking with the formal sit-down format, they created a more intimate and interactive fundraising experience. This focus shifted to fostering genuine connections within their community in a casual, engaging environment. With the new event format, they streamlined the evening into a cocktail hour with appetizers, a raise the paddle, and great company. Instead of a traditional sit-down dinner, they introduced theater-style seating with a more relaxed atmosphere. What was once a 3-hour event is now a focused 1.5-hour experience. These results were incredible. Their fundraising skyrocketed from $30,000 to over $200,000. And they quickly realized that this refreshed format allowed them to connect with guests on a deeper level. They had more time to share with who they are, what they stand for, and create a space for meaningful conversations. This approach also deeply resonates with the next generation of donors, Gen Z. As a generation that values authenticity, connection, and efficiency, this event was perfectly tailored to those priorities. The laid-back atmosphere will allow Gen Z guests to effortlessly learn about your organization, build a personal connection to the cause, and engage in a meaningful way.
So in summary, just to recap those motivations again, these are the main motivations that you should consider leveraging when looking at ways to reimagine your fundraising events. So first, create those opportunities for involvement. This means that initial, hands-on, meaningful participation, such as volunteering or co-creating events. That's a great way to get them initially involved in your organization. And then when retaining Gen Z, it's good to showcase purpose-driven missions. We appreciate nonprofits with clear, impactful missions that are aligned with the global and social causes that we care about. Third, we want you to highlight transparency and impact. Gen Z values organizations that are open about how their funds are used and that highlight the measurable impact of Gen Z supporters' efforts. Fourth, make sure to create that culture of recognition. Gen Z is highly engaged on social media platforms. and we appreciate public acknowledgement for our contributions. We're also highly influenced by our peers. So we're more likely to participate in fundraisers or volunteer activities when we see that our friends or social network are also involved. Fifth, try integrating technology into your events. We are drawn to nonprofits who are using innovative tools like social media, apps, digital campaigns to engage donors and volunteers. And lastly, try to create inclusive events. We like events that are accessible, diverse, and that celebrate individuality. By keeping these factors in mind, you will be better equipped to engage Gen Z as the next generation of donors and create those lasting connections at your future fundraising events.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for attracting a younger generation to fundraising events. If you would like to get our newsletter, please scan the QR code here on the screen. We are also offering a free special 30-minute consultation for anyone who attended this webinar to connect with us about your upcoming event. Visit gfsevents.org to schedule yours today. You can also follow us on social media where we share event insights and tips. Over to you, Lori.
Thank you so much for taking the time to pull all this information together and make it so that not only you're presenting the information, you're giving us real live examples with these fabulous photos of these events, and you're showing us your success. Did I hear that correct? They went from 38,000 to over
200? Yes.
I thought you said 200. I'm like, I'll just start at 100 to make sure I got that right.
No,
and
yeah.
Mind blowing. So I would say that the information that you're providing here is absolutely doable and absolutely going to give you some results. Hey, there were a couple questions that came in along the lines here, and I want to grab those questions because I think a couple people were thumbs upping it and also had additional ones. So let me ask you. I'm going to ask my question first, though. I mean, that's the front of the class quick, and then I'll grab these others. Is there a difference between men and women for Gen Z? I know I'm putting you on the spot there and you didn't research that, but I'm just wondering anecdotally off the top of your head.
I have definitely seen, and we looked into, there was a Blackbaud Institute research done where they interviewed Gen Z, and they also interviewed nonprofit professionals, as well as regular, just corporate professionals to kind of get a feel for Gen Z's engagement with fundraising. Mm-hmm. And statistics definitely showed women were more likely to get involved with volunteering and fundraising. And I think that that's just kind of that social kind of caregiver stereotype that a lot of women grow up in. So
I had a feeling that was going to be your answer, but I wasn't 100% certain because, you know, I'm the old lady in the room. There's a couple questions in here, and I'm just going to kind of lump them together. And if we don't answer it, go ahead and drop it in here again. A lot of questions about gala tickets, tables, sponsorships. If the sponsors are buying the whole table, how do we seat that? How do we price that? Can you kind of talk about that in more of a holistic view of pricing, filling, that sort of conversation?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a tough question because obviously Gen Z doesn't have the current giving power that your loyal Gen X or baby boomer donors have. So this whole presentation was kind of showing that what you invest in Gen Z now is for that long-term giving later on down the road. So, you know, obviously events are very expensive, and keeping those high ticket prices or high sponsorship levels, that helps you have the money to fund your event. And so having different lower cost options, that's why that sliding scale ticket is a great way. Right. It gives those that have the ability to give a lot the opportunity, while also leaving the door open for those folks who want to get involved, but may not have that giving capacity. So, I think having Gen Z at your events now is not going to have that immediate monetary payoff. You are investing in that future giving. And that's why bringing them in as volunteers or, having them, you can attend the event if you volunteer to photograph it. That way they don't have to pay the cost of admission, but they can attend and get involved while also supporting you and donating their time. So there are ways to bring those Gen Z folks in, but in terms of their giving power in the room, it's definitely not currently at the level that you want to see in the future.
Right. Absolutely. Whenever I talk about fundraising events, every single demo I start out, I'm like, it's two prongs, one to raise money, one to raise awareness of your cause. And those run parallel because you need to be able to do both in order to fill that funnel. I see Ghazala was kind enough to put in some additional information talking about the organization that rose from 30,000 to 20,000. And she did remark in there that it was over a 4-year period. So it wasn't just 1 year, it was incremental year over year. And the 200K was from 2024. And that's what we see all the time. And that's across the board within the Auctria programs. We see organizations grow and grow and grow. They'll start out at Explore, then they hit the 50K, then they hit more than that. And sure enough, they're off to Diamond and off to the races because these events grow from year to year, especially if you use all the tips that you guys talked about with, your peer influence and being consistent and making it interesting in the room. Let me see if there's a question in here. Let me grab a couple of these. Somebody says, regarding the question about mocktails, I missed the mocktails question. I will always provide a non-alcoholic version for anyone who might not be up to drinking that night or even for that weekend. There must have been a question about mocktails and I missed that. But do you want to talk about alcohol consumption in the Gen Z group? Is that more? Is that less? Is that flexible? I think you guys are much more open to figuring out that there should be designated drivers and Ubers and things like that. I mean, I come from the generation where mothers against drunk driving and, we had to tell people you can't drive drunk. I think you guys know that already, right?
Absolutely. And I think at a lot of our fundraising events over the past year or two, we've seen a rapid increase in clients that want multiple mocktail options at the event. And I think drinking for Gen Z, I think just overall for most generations, it feels like there's kind of been a shift towards, all right, I'm gonna, hold off on the drinks and instead go for this mocktail. So it seems to be an increase in that preference over all generations.
Awesome. Thank you. There were a couple questions here talking about the social events versus not. There's a comment in here from Megan. She says, we host a 1-hour breakfast that is free to attend, and we get a lot of Gen Z donors that come to this event to hear about our mission. So spot on, Megan. Thank you so much for sharing that with you. There was another question talking about our big spot. There's a lot of questions in here. I think Tracy will drop the newer ones in there, talking about our big sponsors want to sponsor a table or they love the traditional gala. How do we balance that between the socialization and the interaction that you're talking about, adding in or morphing a little bit? How do you balance that?
Sponsor tables are definitely a very specific situation because in our experience, often when a sponsor gets a table with their sponsorship, it's often filled with their employees. And so we do see at events that are very sponsor table heavy, those already end up becoming networking events. So, you might be working for a company that has chosen to sponsor a nonprofit's gala. So your boss asks you, hey, do you want to go to this? And, you might not have heard of the organization before or have any sort of, personal attachment to the cause. And I think getting those people in the room, that emphasizes the importance of those mission tables and those impact videos, because those sponsor tables may not currently be full of your supporters, but when they leave at the end of the night, they should leave feeling like a supporter. That's why weaving in those mission moments and really highlighting your organization's impact, that is how you get those folks invested.
Yeah, if you can fill their heart, then hopefully they'll fill your donor slots soon. There's a question regarding the mocktails, but also a follow-up. Do you vary the food and beverage, the food part of the food and beverage part for younger audiences?
I think the one specific example that we showed of the event that's hosted, they host their gala in a gymnasium. They have a ton of Gen Z volunteers at their events. And when they try to make that more laid back atmosphere, they kind of go for like game day food. That's in line with the, history of sports being involved in their organization, but it's also a lot, more welcoming and something you get more excited for than a classic steak and potatoes. So they had, a French fry bar where guests could go up and get all the different sauces they wanted. They had sliders, like a, classic beef slider, a salmon burger slider, a veggie burger slider. And people were incredibly excited about those options because it was just something more fun than those classic hotel venue, very kind of fancy classic dinners.
Right.
And so it just kept the energy up. And especially at a fundraiser, you want your guests to have that high energy. That way, when you reach that raise the paddle moment, everyone is so excited to give.
I love that. And especially since it's a slider, that means they'll have to move around the room more to get another yummy bite. There are some amazing comments on this thread that people have some fabulous ideas of things that they've done. And I just dropped in our Facebook group, Auction Team Talk. I would love for you guys to drop your ideas in there so that it's more of a permanent record so that we can grab them. We'll summarize these as well. But there's some fabulous comments talking about the mocktails. And then there was, I lost that one. It was Megan, I think, again. She is full of great ideas here. She was talking about, we host a 1-hour breakfast that's free to attend. And we get a lot of Gen Z donors that come to this event and hear about our mission. I mean, how can you, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I love that. The next question, people were asking about the sliding scale for event ticket pricing and actually handling that on the Auctria side. Do you guys give out coupon codes or do you put them in there on the ticket price page?
We'll usually either offer multiple levels of tickets. So sometimes people will have like a young event professional ticket level, which is a reduced ticket price. And then you'll have like your standard ticket price. Some organizations will do early bird ticket pricing so that if folks need that reduced rate, they can buy a ticket early. Or we'll give out different coupon codes for 100% off or 20% off. That way, depending on what our client wants, obviously the coupon code would be more selective. So you could give that to very specific people. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it through Auctria. That's why Auctria is so incredible.
Another way that I've also seen it is that people will actually sponsor somebody else to come that can't pay for their own ticket. So that would be another way that you could also list on your ticket page.
That's awesome. There's another question in here. The convention center that they use to host their gala doesn't offer the opportunity for them to have outside vendors for food. Is there a way to get around that? Or do you suggest?
Often we've seen that venues that say that are just saying that. So we encourage you to push back a little bit when a venue says, oh, we can't have any of these outside vendors or any of these outside vendors. It usually just means that they've got a partnership with specific priority vendors. And usually, if you sweet talk them a little bit, they'll start saying, oh, well, I guess we could have that outside vendor. I guess we could have that outside vendor. However, usually there will be that additional outside vendor fee, which can push the costs up. So it's kind of, you'll have to get to that point and weigh the pros and cons.
Awesome. Janice says, I am not Gen Z. I don't use Facebook. Can we have the ideas in a different manner? Yeah, we'll pull those together. I'm not Gen Z and I use Facebook. So I don't think the Gen Z do you guys like Facebook or you don't like Facebook?
No, we're barely on it, I would say.
I love Facebook. See, there's something for everybody.
Lori, hey, this is Tracy. I'm also with the Auctria team, and I noticed there's you guys have done such a great job, but there was an earlier question I'm going to try and highlight again from Amy, and she said, at galas, are Gen Z more likely to give to the paddle raise or to buy stuff in live and silent? And they had some conversation. There was a few questions along the way about, as you said, Lori, so many great ideas about different items to offer even and sponsoring. But have you noticed anything or any tips on how to gauge them to, even if they have limited funds?
We've definitely seen organizations that will have their traditional raise the paddle, but then offer on guest tables a QR code with a link to their Auctria donation page. That way, usually the auctioneer will mention it while they're on stage. Hey, if you're unable to give at any of the levels that we've gone through this evening, please scan the QR code at your table and give what you are able to, or give as much as you'd like. That way, if the raise the paddle doesn't include a level that Gen Z is able to meet, then they've got that additional option.
Awesome. So the question is, what social platforms are Gen Zs on?
Definitely Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or TikTok. It's the main one, I would say. But yeah, those are the main two, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's refreshing to hear from you guys. I really, really appreciate you providing this information for us. Your contact information is here. Sign up for GFS's monthly. You send that out monthly, the monthly email. Mm-hmm. Every time it comes into my inbox, as soon as it's there, I click on it. It's one of the things that is my priority. Click and read. Valerie, she said Instagram and TikTok. Awesome, thanks. So go ahead and sign up for their monthly mailer. Hang out with us at Auctria. We have a lot of webinars stacked up for all of January and February. We are bringing in guest speakers. We are talking about the new features on the Auctria website. Auctria's webinars are always free, always open to the public, and we love when entire teams come and hang out with us, because then everybody's hearing the same thing at the same time. I love that you guys spent the time to pull this together and share it with our audience. I always wish everybody bids that soar. I hope you crush your fundraising goals. Amy, Colleen, I'll give you the last word.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Lori. It is always a pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Lori, so much. And thank you, everyone, for attending the webinar. And we just appreciate you so much.
Yeah, we look forward to connecting with all of you.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see everybody's events. Tag us so that we can see them. Bye-bye.